Perfect, and he's not on mute. Okay. What? Hello, there we go. Welcome everyone to the Effective Communications Making the Case Breakout Group. We appreciate you all joining. I know we're getting close to pizza and everyone's really excited, but we've got some great remarks in store for you. This breakout is all about sharpening how we tell the story of climate action, connecting values to policy, cutting through disinformation, and building durable public support at the state and local level. In this breakout, we'll explore what makes environmental messages resonate with diverse audiences, how to frame clean energy and conservation as solutions people can see themselves in, and how to move on from national narratives, or from not move on, but how to move from national narratives to winning conversations closer here in Connecticut. We are joined by a terrific panel of communications and advocacy leaders. Nick Abrams, Senior State Communications Director at the National League of Conservation Voters, brings 15 years of experience helping state campaigns refine their message and take on disinformation. We are also joined here in person by Nathan Frohling, Director of External Affairs at the Nature Conservancy in Connecticut, and Susan Wollschlager. I hope I pronounced that right. Director of Marketing and Communications for the Nature Conservancy in Connecticut. So really hoping to dive into some storytelling, some effective comm stuff. If you have questions, I think we're gonna we might have some time to pass around the mic. Feel free to bring it in closer too if you want. These are supposed to be more engaging. But together, these speakers will help us think critically and creatively about how we can make the best case for climate action at this moment. So I'll turn it over to Nick.
Hey, y'all, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great. Well, thanks so much for that intro, and I'm super excited to talk with you all. Like Connor said, I'm Nick Abraham. I am the Senior Communications Director for League of Conservation Voters. We're partners with our friends here at the Connecticut League. And yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit today about what we think is the most important message happening around the country on energy, which is around affordability. And I know that there has been some difficulty around this in a lot of places around the country, especially in Connecticut, about people being unsure how to talk about this, being less encouraged about how to talk about this. But energy affordability is something that is a message that is difficult for people to talk about everywhere. And it is really hurting because it's really directly affecting people's lives and their bottom line. But we had this last election in 2025, we had 3 races that I wanted to talk about that really show that we should be leading on affordability, that we can win on this message, and we should not be afraid to talk about it in a big way with the public. So the 3 races we're gonna talk about today are in New Jersey, Virginia, both their governor's races, and 2 utility races in Georgia. And we're going to start over here in New Jersey. If I can get my slides to move here. And the first is that Mikey Sherrill, who won election, beat Jack Ciattarelli, really focused on affordability and energy affordability from day one. And when she opened her campaign, she decided to open it with a really big splash, saying that she would declare a state of emergency on utility rates on day one. She said she would freeze rates, that she would focus on building more clean energy, that she'd really work with neighboring states to modernize the grid and bring more energy into New Jersey. Now, this is a state where utility rates have gone through the roof. They're one of the highest utility rate increases around the country. So she knew she had to focus on this, but didn't shy away from it, and really led from that affordability message from the start. And what we're gonna get into next is just how aggressively they went after this and really hit their opponents on not focusing on this issue. And you guys make sure that the sound is on here and that you can hear this. So let me know if something gets screwed up here, but.
Do not appear to have sound.
It's not coming through?
No.
Okay. All right. That's okay. I can talk it through, but if you kind of just one second. Basically, what we did in this piece here is just really focused on Jack Ciattarelli's killing clean energy that's going to raise rates. We tied that to his past on his voting for tax increases. But really, what I wanted to showcase here is that we use these ads not only from the positive side, from Mikey Sherrill's campaign, where she's talking about what she would do to address affordability herself, but also hitting our opponents on it, saying that they are going to be worse for affordability, which is something that I think often progressives and Democrats don't do as often, but is something that I think we should be really encouraged and ability to do, that we can hit our opponents on the affordability message as well.
Hey Nick, by the way, if you have other videos, I think you can drop them in the chat and Lily can pull them up on the computer here for folks.
Okay, let me see if I can do that. Yeah, okay. The next place we're going to talk about here is in Virginia, another state that has had massive increases in costs from the energy side. This is a place where it has the most data centers in the entire world. So they are really focused on this. They feel it every day. They've seen these things popping up all over their neighborhoods. So this is something, again, that where the affordability message is really rampant, but that candidates who ran on addressing it and hitting their opponents for not taking this seriously won handedly. This is a place where, Abigail Spanberger won the governor's race, but is also somewhere where we talks a lot more about the legislative races as well. They, really focused collectively on taking on data centers, speeding up these clean energy projects, and just really helping people that are on the margins for affordability, trying to make sure that they have assistance programs, and then rejoining the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, which folks in Connecticut know all about, is something that they really focused on and we're trying to make a contrast with the previous administration on. But again, this is a place where they really focused on affordability and won candidly on those messages. Let me see if I can drop this next video in. I might need to screw around with this really quick, but
Also, where is Lily? Did she leave?
yeah, we can keep it moving too if we need to here. Mostly what I want to show in this video, again, if it's not gonna work, is just the data centers were a really key focus in this election. I feel like that's not something that would have popped up a year ago, but that people in Virginia really focused on. This went all the way down to their legislative races, where we could hit opponents for taking money from data center, companies and big tech, and really talk about that from affordability side, that this was raising rates. This was making it much harder to live in Virginia. So this is something that we just really focused on and tried to make sure that people understood when they were deciding who they wanted to vote for. So yeah, no worries, Connor. We can kind of just keep this to just me.
Just keep rolling.
Yeah, no problem. So the last race I want to talk about here is in Georgia. This was two statewide utility races. It's not, these are ones that are typically very sleepy, that folks don't really pay attention to, but their Public Service Commission, much the similar way in many states, focuses on utility regulation, making sure that they're setting proper rates, and that are holding them accountable. But this board historically has not been one that really did anything except for what the utility asked. So this is a 5-member board. We had 2 seats up, and we ran the most expensive campaigns in Georgia history for these Georgia utility race history. And we had 2 candidates that were willing to, from the jump, say that they were standing up to Georgia utility companies, that they were expanding, clean energy, that they were explicitly running on a campaign that the current seats in the Service Commission had done whatever the utility wanted. So directly taking on that cost message and making sure it was somewhere that they really felt like they could talk about very publicly and make that the sole focus of the campaign. Um, Another video here that we're not gonna be able to show, but you can see that we like made it about raising your bills, that we talked about them being too tied to utility company, and really wanted to make sure people understood that this was about affordability. So if we're moving on from that piece, I also wanted to just show that this worked. In New Jersey, Mikey Sherrill won the governorship, and in her first state of the state, which happened earlier this week, she declared a state of emergency to lower on utility rates and freeze rates across the state. In Virginia, Abigail Spanberger ran a campaign explicitly about cutting costs. And she is already on day one laid out a plan to lower energy costs for Virginians. And in Georgia, the power company there has been so scared by these elections that they have already said that lower rates are coming and that they will lower these bills. So I just wanted to lay these three races out. And yeah, sorry we weren't able to show these videos, but I really want to just encourage everyone here that affordability is something you can run on. It should be something that you're not shying away from. The public is very primed to blame folks that are killing clean energy for these costs because they understand that with more energy on the grid, the lower rates are going to be. So I really want to just encourage y'all that this is something that you can run on, that you can focus on, and you should be able to talk to the public about because they are ready to support those who are going to take on affordability head on.
Awesome, Nick. Thank you so much, and thanks for being able to tune in from down in DC. I will say, I know we give shameless plugs for all of you to follow CTLCV on social media and join our email list and stuff. I would encourage you to do the same for national, especially their Instagram and social media. All that stuff is what Nick and his awesome team put together. It's really engaging and creative, so definitely check them out. All right. Now we're going to turn over to Nathan and Susan with the Nature Conservancy and kind of take that, broader messaging that Nick was talking about at the national level and bring it down to Connecticut. And so I'll turn it over to both of you.
Well, thank you. Let's see. It sounds like the mic is working. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. Well, I'm delighted to be here. I'm usually squawking about my frustration of a poor narrative in Connecticut for clean energy with my wife. And now I have all of you that I can share my deep, dark feelings about the narrative. The um, main message I want to start with is that the narrative is so much more important than I think we give credit to it. And if it's positive, it's very powerful. uh, you know, clean water was a narrative, and people bought into how important that was. It seemed basic, and it has helped us get a lot of good policy done. So I want to do three things as quickly as I can. One is to talk briefly about the narrative problem I think we have for clean energy in Connecticut. Secondly, is to give you a couple of examples that help demonstrate that. And thirdly, to talk about, well, what can we do? What's important to keep in mind? So I do think that it's the stories that we tell ourselves that we act on, and we get our policymakers to pass laws or the governor to make decisions that are consistent with the narrative that's out there. The second thing was the examples that I'm going to talk to you about, and so um, I'm wondering if you would agree with me that right now some people in Connecticut believe that renewable energy is the cause of their high electric bills. How many people have a sense that there's a feeling out there that renewable energy is the reason we have high electric bills? Some of you, many of you. Also, as we look to the future of the need for new energy, however we get it, not staying where we are with the status quo, but needing to build new energy somewhere, whether it's gas or offshore wind or whatever it is. The word on the street, the narrative, at least many people have, is that renewable energy is too expensive for the future. How many people you've heard that line? Okay, so there's a lot of you. That's not a good message for renewable energy. And it's also very frustrating because it's not a fair message either. So in the case of offshore wind, that's a complicated story, but to cut to a couple of examples of the problem there. I'm wondering how many of you remember when we heard on the news that natural gas is only 5 cents a kilowatt hour. but offshore wind is 15 cents a kilowatt hour. And that's pretty commonsensical, pretty easy to understand. Why would anyone go for offshore wind if it's 15 cents compared to 5 cents? And when you're living in a time and a state where energy is so expensive, it's become, as we've been saying, such a huge political issue. Even if you care about the climate, if you can't pay your bills, you're probably going to worry about that first. And so that alone was one of the simple messages that were out there that helped create the narrative that offshore wind is too expensive. That's the narrative, simple and not helpful. Now, if we have to build the same wind that we were bidding on at the time that Governor Lamont had to make a decision about an offshore wind project, which he decided not to do, if we had to still create that power some other way, from natural gas, for example, it would likely have cost just as much as offshore wind would have. We now have studies that have helped show that already. I don't know how many of you have heard of the Synapse study, was out a little while ago, that showed that not only was offshore wind competitive with natural gas, but also that it could help lower electricity bills. So we don't hear that very often, and that's not yet in the narrative. We also learned that winter reliability is a huge advantage for offshore wind. That's not something that we get as well from natural gas or some other sources. So I was sympathetic to Governor Lamont when he decided not to, though I was furious and upset that we lost an offshore wind project. I was understandable because at that time, the going narrative was offshore wind was too expensive. So one take home message I would like to leave you with on that front is that offshore wind is not too expensive. And as I'll say in a minute, it's so important that we get the information together to help defend and prove that point. The next example is the public benefit charge. Has anyone heard of the public benefit charge in utility bill? Almost all of many of you. We're led to believe again that renewable energy is the problem for your electric bill, and it's not. What is the problem? The problem is that we're now paying on a contract to compensate Millstone for operating, which it may not have if we hadn't made an agreement years ago to do so. But we're paying the contract prices, which has elevated our bill. Another big impact on the bill is utilities getting reimbursed for COVID impacts that they had, COVID related losses that they had. That was a huge number as I understand it. Also fluctuations in the upward direction for natural gas. And also when we were noticing our electric bills, we had some pretty hot summers and people were using the air conditioning. Did any of that sound like renewable energy was the reason for the cost going up? No, it wasn't. Now there is about a 5% part of the public benefits, 5% of your total electric bill that helps renewable energy and energy efficiency, which also helps lower your bills because you have less energy that you're using. But anyway, that's about 5%. That has, during this period of time, remained flat. It's very small and it hasn't budged. So why is renewable energy getting blamed for your high electric bill? The narrative matters. So what do we do about it? Well, at the Nature Conservancy, we believe that information is just rock bottom. You need it to stand on whatever and however you use it. You need it. You need to have information. A shouting match doesn't usually land in a good place. So we actually are involved in a very state of the art and well funded study with an expert consultant to try to get at many of these issues. What is an appropriate energy mix going forward that's least cost for consumers? What really drives those costs? Wh- Why did we have this electric bills going up so that we can actually show and defend what I just said about the public benefits charge? We want to get the information together so that we can actually stand up and help create a positive message for clean energy and renewables, not a negative one. But we're also aware of the fact that it isn't just enough to have the analysts and the facts. We need messaging to be simple, clear, that transcends the complication of technology. Something as simple as, which we could get from the Synapse study, offshore wind can actually reduce your electric bill, not make it go up. I would like us to be able to say, and I can't say it yet because we need our information to come in to make me confident that we can fully say this, but I expect we're going to be able to. And that would be a simple statement as renewable energy is actually a necessity for not only meeting future energy demand, but it's a necessity for keeping that energy demand affordable compared to other, particularly fossil sources. So um, it's not just the facts, it's also how we package them so people care about them. We've heard continually that right now affordability is number one. So that's why in the study that we're doing, we recognize and have great respect for the climate goals for renewables, but we're taking that out of it. We're looking at just the raw cost to develop these energy sources. We want renewable energy to be able to compete with fossil energy just on cost alone, because that seems in many cases to be the only thing people really care about. Lastly, just we also need to pay attention to who the audience is. We need to make sure that we have messengers that help us get the word out, that are not just NGOs who have a mission around climate, clean energy, but also care about underserved communities who have the perspective of the faith community, business interests. There are other messengers that can be a help to us. And we also need to get out there and do more communications and make sure that our messages are out there, not just the adversarial messages. So hope I didn't take too much time, Susan. Thanks for listening.
Is mine on? We think it's working. Yeah. So again, hi, I'm Susan Wollschlager, Director of Marketing and Communications for the Nature Conservancy in Connecticut. We are a global nonprofit. We have a chapter in every single state, and Nathan and I work together every single day for our Connecticut chapter. Government relations, and I'm over here for marketing communications. And I come to this topic and my work in a little bit of a different way because I am not a scientist. I am not an energy or a greater transmission expert. I'm a Connecticut resident. I'm a news consumer. I love reading the news, love headlines. I'm a member of the general public, paying my energy bills like everybody else. So for me, as Nathan, you said, we need to go simple, less jargon. Can we cut the acronyms? I find myself sitting in presentations sometimes about all of this, and I am embedded in it every day. And I have to say, wait a minute, what is that acronym? Let me refresh my memory. What's this new vocabulary word I just learned? Okay, now I've got that. Now I have to go back to the information I'm learning or facts that are being shared with me and put those pieces of the puzzle together. And it's this delay and it takes time. And so I feel kind of like people in the general public who are still figuring all this out, and there's a lot to take in. So the simpler that we can make it, I think the better. And I also think about it as, what would you go home and tell your family member, your spouse, your partner? What would you tell grandma? My grandma loves the news. She loves her newspaper every single day. I know that she is someone who's in our audience. How do you make it more conversational, less rigid and academic? I think that's more relatable and digestible to people. And we're talking about audience. I think our audience is anyone and everyone, and I would not exclude younger generations. They're not paying the bills yet, but one day they will be, and they're going to be paying attention to this. But we also know the younger generations do care about nature and the environment. They care a lot. We see this in high school students, in college students that we work with at TNC. They care and they are paying attention. So, we know we want to address legislators. They're part of our audience, of course, the governor, everyone in this room. People who are maybe on the opposite side and are not so interested in clean energy yet, but let's not, exclude younger people. They're also going to be our leaders one day. So we want to get them understanding our side as early as we can. But when we are considering all of these different people in our audience, people absorb information in different ways. They learn in different ways. Some of us love digging into a really long news story and just marinating on that for a while, lots of words. Other people want quick, short blurbs. We have shorter attention spans these days, right? Social media has kind of helped with that. Other people need to see numbers and they want quick, by the numbers, quick impact to look at. But then we have the complication of, typically we're talking about really big numbers when we're looking at benefits from clean energy. But if I'm sitting there thinking about my household, my bill, I don't really know yet how that's going to help me out. So, can we get to more individualized numbers? How does this impact your own household? And look at it at a smaller scale. Because, Nathan, like you said, when people are facing a really big bill, their challenge and their focus in that moment is, how am I paying this bill? We love the benefits for climate. We've talked for years about that. It is so essential and so important. But we also have to remember people's day to day challenges. And in this moment, that might be all that they can focus on. How are we going to lower my bill so that I can make my life sustainable? So say that we can get these great numbers. We have different information, new information we want to share with people. We're so excited. Nathan, as you started to talk about, the messenger. Who could be a new voice we can bring into that conversation to present this information? Somebody where somebody's going to see their name, see their quote, and do a double take. Wait a minute. That's somebody I recognize in my community, but they don't normally talk about this. They're part of whatever other industry. I didn't know they were maybe supporting this side. I'm going to finish reading what they have to say because this is really different. People who follow this topic probably recognize a lot of the names who are here at this event today. They see their quotes, they see their reactions to different developments in the news and in clean energy, and they're used to seeing that. So, who's a different person, a different name we can bring into this? That's a little bit of a surprise and might make them pay a little bit more attention. So we also talked about that might mean someone who goes beyond reasons about climate. Maybe it is about affordability. Is it about jobs, the economy? Is that going to make a parent pay attention? Like my kids should look into this as a career choice when they're looking at colleges or what are they doing after high school? Is that going to make them look at this in a different way beyond climate and maybe even beyond affordability? But there is another big uphill battle that I think we're facing, and that is trust, especially with AI being so in the forefront right now. I know that my brain is seeing things and being like, hold on a minute. I don't know that I believe this is a real video or a real image, and the facts associated with it maybe shouldn't trust that. I think we have maybe all had a moment on social media recently where we shared something with a friend. Oh my gosh, look at this cool video picture. And then we're like, nope, never mind. That was fake. A little embarrassed. Shouldn't have fallen for that. So are our brains starting to kind of safeguard us in a little bit of a different way, for better or for worse? And so now we need to regain trust. We need to assume that people might not, right off the bat, trust in the information that's going to be coming out. And so how do we frame this message and how many different ways do we need to say it and present it to get that trust back, and so that people know when we are saying this, you can believe it, you can trust it, it is fully accurate. And so, of course, goes without saying, social media has to be a part of a communications plan for this. Yes, we want to get it out with our traditional news media and websites and print newsletters and digital newsletters. Social media has to be a part of it. And I also really believe in using stories where clean energy has proven itself. We know nearby in Rhode Island, that's not far away at all. Can we talk more about how well that's gone there and hear some of the stories from that state? And I do want to just leave on like a more positive note. If anyone follows Dr. Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson, she's a scientist, policy expert, writer, and her last book that came out was called "What If We Get It Right." So yes, we can worry and feel nervous about a lot of challenges we face, but on the other side of it, what if we get it right? Like we can feel hopeful that there is a bright side here, and we can get to it, and we might get it right. So I just want to leave on a high note. But thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we have time for about one question. I certainly will not be the responsible one for keeping you from your pizza, especially now that it's here. Let me just pass the mic to you if you would like. And I think Nick is still on as well if your question is directed to him.
Thank you. My name is Jim Clifford. I'm the state lead for the Connecticut Climate Education Hub. And when I heard you speak about reaching young people and also with the dangers of deciding what is authentic information and what's AI driven, what you're describing to me are high school teachers as being on the front lines. As a former high school teacher and now an environmental educator, the demographic we work with is passionate. Those young people are passionate. They go home, they talk to their parents, they talk to their grandparents, all of whom are existing voters, and those young people will be new voters, some of which are, the seniors already are, many of them are voters. But the key is a general outreach may not be enough. You might need a more targeted plan, one that gets it into the schools, ones that will attract teachers for training. They have so many things on their list, and I wondered, do you have anything in mind in the offing for either existing or future outreach to schools?
not yet, but I think that should be part of the plan probably for all of us. And maybe we can all collaborate on something, because I really do believe in that. I previously worked in a school district and also at a university, and I just see the power that the next generations have. And I think we need to tap into that and also just believe in them. Don't assume like they aren't interested or can't understand this. They absolutely can. And like you said, they absolutely care, and they do talk about this at home. And so are they almost influencers in their own way to their parents and other people in their family? And I think, or I hope, that a lot of science teachers and other teachers in other disciplines would be interested in that. There's a lot you can do with it. You can bring it into writing and English classes, and I don't know, maybe even history. So I think there is something there, and maybe we can all be working on that when we have new information that we want to be sharing out.
All right, well, let's give a round of applause to all of our speakers. And we are now going to move into lunch/networking. There are pizzas and a little aisle in the back.